And because it's federal money, the state doesn't have to match this particular pot of funds, but we cannot use it for revenue recovery. That's a rule from the U.S. Treasury. So what these funds will be used for is basically COVID-19 response and cost incurred there. And you've heard a lot about local governments using or sending in requests for FEMA reimbursements. As a part of this money, we've learned that we have to spend this first before we can apply for FEMA reimbursement. So these funds will have to be drawn down. They may not all be drawn down, but either all or some portion of them will be drawn down. And once they've been expired, we would have to then look to FEMA. And I believe the reason for that is when you seek FEMA reimbursements from the federal government, there is a state match there that's required. So since this is federal money that doesn't have to be matched, the state, I think, would prefer we spend it first. And I understand that. In the long run, it could be more cost effective for the state to do that. And that makes sense. I'll finish up. I know there's some questions out there that I'd like to answer. And if I don't have the answers, I will get them for you. But I'd just like to say for those businesses that are opening tomorrow as a part of the phase one, I hope those of you that haven't been open or will be opening will find a lot of success. We'll start to be able to build back your customer base. I know there's two big questions out there. One is when these businesses open back up, will everyone that had a job before the shutdown, will they have a job after the shutdown? And the other is, will the customers start coming back like they were before? I think both of those are questions that'll just have to be answered over the next few weeks. I know in the last week or so, I've been getting some calls, emails from local businesses who are going to open tomorrow, who have previously been closed. And they have questions, concerns about how best to keep themselves and their employees safe, as well as their customers, and how best to do that. And so if there's anyone else who has those types of questions or concerns, you will need to contact our emergency management coordinator and his staff, John Shelton. They are really, they are willing and able to answer those questions and to help those businesses that will be opening do so in a safe and responsible manner. If you already have a good plan, kudos to you. Just hope you find a lot of tremendous success. The emergency management staff, I'm gonna throw this number out there. If you want to give them a call, it's 336-783-9000. So that's 336-783-9000. And if you have any of those specific concerns or questions and need some assistance, they will be able to help you or find you the resources that you need. So Randy, those are my general comments to start with. I'll be happy to answer any questions at this time.
Bob Montague writes, Chris, that how can the larger community join in supporting the county commissioner's proclamation that was sent recently?
I think really just email or a letter or however you like to communicate directly to the governor's office. I think, you know, it's one thing I'll mention about that, because we've gotten a lot of questions in the last few weeks, you know, a lot of frustration, and that's to be expected. And I guess in a nutshell, the best way to say this is that the county is legally an extension of the state. We exist because the state allows us to exist. We get our authority to conduct the business that we conduct from the state. And so when it comes to these orders that are handed down at the state level, the county commissioners, unfortunately, their only real option if they disagree with it is what we did last week in the proclamation. Now, we can't be less restrictive than one of these executive orders. We can be more restrictive through our own emergency management ordinance. Our board has chosen not to do that, but in some counties, for instance, like Wake County, they chose to do that. They chose to be more restrictive. So we, at some level, you know, our hands are tied, and the county commissioners, regardless, and staff here, you know, regardless of our personal opinions about some things that we're required to do, you know, we have limited options there. And when you talk about some of the biggest costs in county government that local folks help fund through their local taxes, public schools, social services, public health, Those are all mandated by the state that we carry those out on their behalf.
Right.
So,
Right.
yep.
Good answer. Surry asked, do we have a sister county relationship with a county outside of Surry? And if so, has it been productive? I think he was thinking of another state where this was occurring, or, a county in North Carolina. Is there another county that we have a kind of a sister relationship, or we have an international one or anything like that?
I don't know that we have an international, just from the type of work we're involved in on a daily basis. We have a few what we call benchmark counties in North Carolina, and basically they're similar size to us in population. There's about 8 to 10 of them. The closest one being Wilkes. Wilkes, while a landmass wise, is a much larger county than Surry. Population, demographics, things of that nature, we're basically mirror images of each other. And we just happen to be adjoining each other as well.
But you all know each other and keep in touch with each other, I assume?
More frequently here lately, with everything that's going on. But, in a typical year, we probably communicate every other month, whether that's in what I would call a district forum or a statewide forum. But, one of the best things in the last 20 years is just technology in general. I think the ability to communicate with your peers and to bounce ideas off each other is just an email away anymore. So,
Right.
That kind of information sharing probably occurs daily, whether it's me or any of our department heads.
Michael Barnes had a question that said that, he missed the opening portion of it, just a part of it. But what kind of, Chris, from your vantage point, what kind of COVID-19 testing is the county health department offering right now?
They are working on, I can tell you this, they're working on a plan. There have been some meetings this week. I'm not familiar with the details yet. There have been meetings between public health, emergency management, and the hospitals. And so that should be coming out shortly. If I had more details, I'd give them to you, but that is something that's being worked on. As a matter of fact, when I mentioned earlier about the 1.4 to 1.5 million that the state has allocated to us, those dollars, some of those dollars will be used for that very purpose.
Don Masura wrote another question, said, what do you think would be the biggest opportunity that will be created, Chris, as a result of the COVID-19 shutdown?
I think the one, and this is kind of a personal opinion, I think we've seen the impact in a situation like this on being too dependent on a country like China to produce a lot of the, in this case, medical supplies that were needed. And so I think there's going to be tremendous opportunity after this passes for a lot of local business and industry across the country to step in. There have been some real positive cases just here in Surry County of local businesses stepping up and altering the way they do business, to whether it's making hand sanitizer or face masks or PPE in general, the protective equipment that's needed. And not just by medical professionals now, regular citizens are wanting this PPE. So to me, that's going to be one of the biggest questions coming out of this, is how much of that will we try to recapture?
Right.
I've even seen some media reports in the last few weeks that when this thing originally broke out in China, that maybe they were beginning to sort of stockpile their own PPE before this kind of got out and was more public. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. But, if that were the case, they're making the vast majority of it for the entire world now. And so that might be an opportunity. There's a lot of questions there, about the cost of doing business there versus here. But,
Right.
One thing I've got to say is that, as Americans in general, it's in our DNA. We always rise to the occasion. Sometimes we're late, sometimes it's after the fact, but in any crisis, we always rise to the occasion. I remember after 9/11, the consensus nationwide was that, well, people would start moving out of the cities and they'd start moving out in the rural areas. And our county, the 10 years prior to 9/11, we were growing by leaps and bounds. We went from about 61,000 in population to 72,000 in population. We were growing very rapidly.
Right.
And you know what happened? The exact opposite happened. People started moving back into the cities. And so it's just an interesting, it's interesting to see what happens. How do we react? And what do we do? But it's in our DNA. That's just who we are. We always rise to the occasion. And I look forward to seeing what that looks like.